Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Thanks for joining us on TCM and tonight's tribute to Ronald Colman. Up next, a literary adaptation Colman had longed to star in since the early days of his acting career. It's from MGM in 1935, A Tale of Two Cities. Based on the Charles Dickens classic novel, this is a story of sacrifice and redemption during the turmoil of the French Revolution, featuring a main character who has been dubbed the most unheroic of heroes. And that was Colman's dream role, Sidney Carton. Colman called Carton a whimsical, sardonic, bitterly disillusioned fellow, saying in a 1928 interview, "He has lived for me since the first instance I discovered him," the pages of the novel. Colman became a movie star toward the end of the silent era, but unlike so many silent actors, sound opened doors for Ronald Colman. His rich, distinctive speaking voice lent itself to this new sound technology, and Colman soon became an even bigger star. By 1935, he was one of Hollywood's top leading men, leaving him perfectly suited to take on his dream role in David O. Selznick's production of A Tale of Two Cities. This film marked the last movie Selznick made under his MGM contract. He left the studio to form Selznick International Pictures, becoming the most influential independent producer of the era, rivaled only by Sam Goldwyn. There's a key plot point in A Tale of Two Cities. Sidney Carton, Colman's character, bears a physical similarity to the film's other main character, Charles Darnay. But there would be no dual role for Colman here. He was adamant about solely playing Carton. A couple of years earlier, Colman had a bad experience playing dual roles in a film called The Masquerader. Selznick agreed to downplay the doppelganger aspect, casting Donald Woods, who at least slightly resembled Colman, as Darnay. Oddly, 2 years after A Tale of Two Cities, Colman played a dual role to great success in the 1937 version of The Prisoner of Zenda. Incidentally, Ronald Colman was introduced to his future wife, Benita Hume, while making A Tale of Two Cities, or rather reintroduced. They'd first met when she auditioned for The Masquerader. Colman and Hume were married for 20 years until his death in 1958. From 1935, also starring Basil Rathbone, Elizabeth Allen, and Edna May Oliver, A Tale of Two Cities. As I mentioned before the movie, Ronald Colman flatly refused to play the dual roles of Sidney Carton and Charles Darnay in A Tale of Two Cities due to a bad experience on a previous film, The Masquerader. Luckily, producer David O. Selznick agreed it was unimportant, adding that it would be very difficult to get an audience excited about Ronald Colman going to the guillotine to save Ronald Colman. A couple of years later, Colman was convinced to take on two roles in the 1937 version of The Prisoner of Zenda. Conversely, Colman did agree to do something for A Tale of Two Cities that he refused to do for pretty much the rest of his life: shave off his signature mustache. Colman was convinced a mustache would have been too anachronistic for the late 18th century, but it's definitely a film rarity to see Colman with a smooth upper lip. He famously sported one of those thin, trim mustaches of the period, much like Clark Gable, Errol Flynn. By the time Colman made his next film, that stash was back where it belonged. Coming up, Colman stars as an amnesiac trying to solve the riddle of his life with some significant help from Greer Garson. Random Harvest from 1942 is next on TCM.
Next on TCM, Random Harvest, then Kismet, and later, My Life with Caroline. TCM bonds with Ronald Colman tonight.